The sky was darkened with silence and tension. Across every city on Earth, millions of people watched a screen that would change their lives forever. The aliens, a species that had traveled light years to reach Earth, broadcasted a show that displayed the killing of 7 million humans. It was a display of their power, meant to intimidate and break the human spirit. The images were clear, the sounds horrifying, and the message unmistakable. Humanity had been warned. Park Ji-ho sat at a control station, his eyes glued to the data streams from deep space. He was a systems analyst, normally quiet, preferring to work with computers rather than people. But today was different. His heart pounded, and he felt a mix of fear and anger. He watched the signal of the aliens' broadcast ripple across the galaxy. Every detail of the massacre was being transmitted live, and there was no way to stop it. Ji-ho's hands shook slightly as he typed, trying to find any anomaly in the signal that might give humanity a chance to fight back. In Seoul, Kim Hanyul coordinated emergency measures. She had spent years managing disasters, but this was unlike anything she had ever faced. Her phone rang constantly, her team reporting casualties, chaos, and confusion. Families huddled in their homes, unable to look away from the horrific images on television. She felt the weight of responsibility pressing down on her chest. The world was in shock, and she was one of the few trying to keep it together, guiding people through panic, organizing evacuation zones, and preparing for the unknown. Meanwhile, Lee Do-yeon, a historian who had studied human conflict for decades, sat in his office surrounded by books and screens. He immediately recognized the act not just as violence, but as a declaration of total war. The aliens had no intention of negotiating or understanding. They believed humanity would break under the shock, that Earth would submit like so many others across the galaxy had. Do-yeon knew they were wrong. He also understood the gravity of what this meant. The survival of humanity itself was at stake, and the history of the species would be defined by what came next. The alien broadcast continued, showing the precision and cold efficiency with which they killed the humans. Cities were lit by the glow of explosions, forests and towns disappearing in moments. The aliens demonstrated advanced weapons technology and coordinated attacks that made every human military tactic seem weak and ineffective. Yet the broadcast also revealed something unexpected. Their faces, or the few visible forms of the aliens, were not invincible or emotionless. There were hints of ritual and pride, a belief in superiority. This gave some humans a tiny spark of hope. Perhaps the aliens could be predicted. Perhaps they could be understood. Across the globe, people reacted in different ways. Some froze, unable to comprehend the horror. Others screamed, cried, or collapsed. Some, like Ji-ho, Hanyul, and Do-yeon, began to think clearly. They realized that panic was the enemy. Understanding the aliens, finding patterns, and organizing human resources was the only way forward. The broadcast had united humanity in grief, yes, but also in a quiet resolve that was beginning to form beneath the surface. Families tried to communicate with loved ones. In small towns, groups gathered around radios or portable screens, sharing information and trying to comfort one another. Children were shielded as best as possible, though the images could not be unseen. The human spirit, fragile but persistent, began to show signs of resistance. People whispered to each other about hope, about survival, about fighting back. It was small, almost imperceptible, but it was there. In space, orbital monitoring stations observed the alien fleet. Choi Se-jin, an engineer, quickly began to analyze the technology. He could see patterns in the energy signatures, the way weapons fired, and the timing of attacks. He realized that while the aliens were superior in raw power, they were predictable in their tactics. Se-jin felt a surge of determination. If humanity could understand the patterns, perhaps they could find a weakness. Yoon Mira, a linguist, joined the effort, studying the alien messages embedded in the broadcast. She listened to sounds and analyzed symbols, trying to find codes, hints, anything that could reveal intent or strategy. Her work was painstaking, and her nights were long. But every small breakthrough brought hope. Every clue uncovered was a step closer to resisting the unimaginable dot in another part of Seoul. Han Tai-soo coordinated the logistics of information flow. He ensured that emergency signals, reports, and warnings reached the right hands. He moved silently, unnoticed, but his role was crucial. Without his work, confusion would have overwhelmed the human response. People like him kept the fragile thread of organization intact, weaving it across continents and cultures. As the broadcast continued, it became clear that the aliens expected fear. They had never faced a unified planet before. Their calculations assumed that humans would panic, surrender, or fight each other. But the exact opposite was happening. Humans were beginning to connect. Leaders communicated secretly. Scientists shared knowledge. Civilians assisted in evacuations and emergency measures. The aliens' expectation of submission was wrong. Humans were resilient, and even in despair, they began to plan. The first signs of a collective human response began subtly. Satellite signals were altered to mislead alien sensors. Military forces began quietly reorganizing, hiding supplies and equipment from prying eyes. Messages were encrypted, channels opened, and a network of resistance began forming almost instinctively. It was small, disorganized in appearance, but powerful in intent. Humans had survived wars, natural disasters, and disease. They would survive this too. Jiho, Hanyul, and Doyan found themselves connected by circumstance and necessity. They communicated through secure channels, sharing observations and ideas. Jiho provided technical analysis. Hanyul coordinated human response on the ground. Doyun offered historical perspective, warning against repeating mistakes. Together, they were part of a larger, invisible network of humans, thinking clearly under pressure. Their small acts of insight and leadership represented the larger strength of humanity, unity in crisis. The alien broadcast, meant to terrify, had inadvertently revealed a crucial lesson to humanity. Fear alone could not break the human spirit. The display of power, the killing of millions, the insistence on spectacle, all of it had one effect. It showed humans what they must overcome, and that they must do so together. Across the globe, in homes, offices, and hidden bunkers, humans made silent oaths. They would survive. They would fight back. They would endure. As night fell over Earth, the broadcast continued. But now, viewers no longer felt only helplessness. They felt resolve. Jiho, staring at the screens filled with alien firepower, clenched his fists. Hanyul, coordinating emergency response in her office, whispered to herself that humanity would not kneel. Dayan, reviewing historical accounts of past human resilience, knew this was a moment that would define generations. The aliens had broadcasted power, but humanity had discovered something else. A shared purpose, a collective will to live. In the quiet moments, amid the chaos, humans began to hope. It was a small hope, fragile and cautious, but it existed. And as the first part of this grim, unthinkable day came to a close, Earth had already started to prepare, quietly, for the struggle that would define the survival of the human race. The first moments after the broadcast left Earth stunned, but the shock slowly turned into determination. Across the planet, governments began to set aside old rivalries. Political borders mattered less than survival. Human leaders realized that if they did not unite, the species would end. In Seoul, Kim Hanyul worked with representatives from other countries, sharing data and plans. She had never expected to work with former rivals, but the situation left no choice. Together, they formed a planetary command. a new organization designed for cooperation and quick action. Choi Seijin, the orbital engineer, began her work converting civilian satellites into defense and surveillance tools. Normally, her days were filled with technical calculations and minor repairs. Now, every satellite had to be repurposed as part of a defense network. Seijin coordinated teams in space and on the ground, making sure that humanity could track alien movements and anticipate attacks. Every small decision mattered. If the aliens found a weak point, the cost could be devastating. Her calm, precise work was the backbone of a growing resistance. Mira studied alien communications and language patterns. She spent long nights decoding alien signals, looking for patterns and weaknesses. The aliens were clever, using symbols, tones, and sequences to control and intimidate. Mira discovered small gaps, errors in their logic that humans could exploit. Every day she learned more about how they thought and acted. These insights became crucial to the plans forming across Earth. Humanity would not match them in raw power, but they could match them in intelligence and strategy. Han Tai-Su moved quietly behind the scenes, making sure that resources, information, and people reached where they were needed most. His role was often invisible, but critical. He coordinated the delivery of food, medicine, weapons, and equipment. He ensured that different nations could share technology and supplies without confusion. Without him, the new planetary command might have fallen into chaos. With him, small human communities began to feel connected to a larger effort. In the midst of this, ordinary civilians became extraordinary. Farmers, engineers, teachers, and students volunteered to help in any way they could. Some built shelters, others repaired damaged infrastructure, and many joined communication networks to spread warnings and updates. Children and elderly were protected, while able-bodied people became the hands and eyes of a global effort. Human strength, it seemed, was not just in weapons or technology, but in cooperation, persistence, and courage. As humans prepared, they studied the aliens' tactics. They noticed that the extraterrestrials relied on intimidation, ritualized combat, and predictable attack patterns. These were weaknesses that humans could exploit. They could not hope to defeat the aliens head-on at first, so they planned asymmetrical strategies. Instead of trying to match strength with strength, humans would use cleverness, planning, and careful deception. Training centers were set up across Earth. Soldiers learned to move quietly, strike quickly, and survive in hostile conditions. Engineers built new tools and weapons using whatever resources were available. Civilians were trained to support these efforts. Even in a short time, the Earth's population began to move as one entity, united by a single purpose. Survival. Park Ji-ho analyzed the aliens' fleet movements and communication patterns. He discovered that the aliens had strict routines and predictable schedules. Using this knowledge, human leaders could anticipate attacks and plan countermeasures. Ji-ho's work allowed the planetary command to predict alien movements, which gave humans a critical advantage. Even small victories became possible when timing and strategy were used correctly. Kim Haniel organized simulations and drills to prepare people for potential invasions. These drills taught civilians how to stay safe, communicate in emergencies, and support the larger human effort. It was not just about survival. It was about building confidence and showing that humans could adapt under pressure. Communities that had once been isolated now shared information and plans. Fear was replaced with a sense of purpose. In parallel, Yoon Myra worked with Choi Seijin and other scientists to create early warning systems. Satellites were used to detect alien ships, energy emissions, and other signs of attack. Earth's atmosphere became a shield not of force, but of knowledge. Every signal analyzed, every pattern recognized, added to a growing advantage for humans. It was a battle fought with brains as much as with technology. Han Tai-Su ensured that all plans were executed smoothly. Supplies were delivered to remote areas, communication channels were protected, and coordination between military and civilian groups was maintained. He was often unseen, moving like a shadow, but without him the vast operation would collapse. His quiet determination inspired others to trust the planetary command and work together efficiently. Choi Sajin devised new strategies using the natural environment. Orbiting stations were rearranged to hide human positions, and satellites were equipped to create false signals. Earth's defenses began to look like a complex web designed to confuse and mislead the aliens. Every detail was planned with care, every move calculated to maximize effect and minimize risk. Humans began to see that their ingenuity could offset the aliens' superior firepower. Meanwhile, civilians became increasingly aware of the importance of their role. Teachers, students, and workers sent coded messages, repaired communication lines, and supported logistics. Every person contributed. Earth's unity grew stronger not from fear, but from shared responsibility. Even in despair, hope remained alive because action was possible. Humans were learning that cooperation could overcome even the most terrifying threat. Park Geo continued to analyze data, looking for weaknesses in the alien fleet. He noticed that while the aliens were powerful, their communication was centralized. Disrupting it could create confusion and slow their attacks. Jiho shared these insights with the planetary command, and small-scale operations were planned to test the theory. Humans could not afford large mistakes, so every operation was carefully calculated. In quiet moments, leaders reflected on the human spirit. Lee Doyan reminded them that humanity had survived countless challenges before: natural disasters, wars, diseases, and internal conflicts. Now, faced with a threat from another world, humans would rely on the same resilience, the same courage, and the same determination. The difference was that this time, the entire planet moved together. Kim Hanyul held meetings with emergency coordinators, engineers, and military officers. They discussed plans for shelters, safe zones, and evacuation routes. They also planned ways to use human creativity to their advantage. Simple tools could be turned into weapons. Ordinary knowledge could become defense. Every human had potential to contribute to the fight for survival. As humans prepared for the unknown, the aliens continued to broadcast messages, assuming that fear would dominate. But they were misreading the human spirit. Instead of submission, they saw determination. Instead of despair, they would eventually face ingenuity and cooperation. Humans were learning fast, adapting faster, and preparing for a battle that no one had expected. Across the planet, Earth's population worked tirelessly. Scientists, soldiers, and civilians all contributed in their own ways. Knowledge and coordination became a shield as powerful as any weapon. Human unity became the first line of defense. The aliens had assumed they would dominate easily, but the humans were showing signs that would change the course of the conflict. The day ended with small victories that were invisible to the aliens, but meaningful to humans. Satellite tests were successful. Communication lines were secure. Supplies were in place. Communities were prepared. Humanity had survived the first shock of the broadcast, and now, with organization, intelligence, and courage, humans began to fight back in subtle, careful ways. The first steps toward resistance had been taken, and Earth would not kneel. Humanity learned to hide its strength behind appearances. The aliens, confident in their dominance, believed Earth to be fractured and weak. The truth was far different. Humans carefully staged situations, creating illusions of disarray while secretly preparing strategies to strike back. Satellites sent false signals, abandoned zones were left to mislead enemy surveillance, and dummy installations were set up to attract alien attention. Every movement was part of a larger plan, designed to confuse and disorient the invaders. Kong Sun-woo, a fleet tactician, worked tirelessly to design ambush corridors using gravitational anomalies, asteroid belts, and debris fields. He calculated paths that would force alien ships into tight formations, where their size and speed became liabilities rather than advantages. Sun Wu understood that humans could not match raw firepower, but could exploit the environment to create deadly traps. His knowledge of physics and orbital dynamics became a weapon in itself, and every calculation was a step toward reclaiming humanity's freedom. Beek Gina, a civilian coder, joined the effort with her expertise in algorithms. She developed programs capable of disrupting alien communication networks, creating delays and misdirection. Her code was simple but effective, targeting the centralized systems that humans had discovered in the alien structure. With her work, alien fleets could be thrown into confusion, even briefly, giving human forces the edge they needed. Every line of code was a silent strike against the enemy, proving that brains could rival technology in this war. Oh Seongmin, a test pilot, trained day and night in prototype human spacecraft. The ships were smaller, more agile, and equipped with improvised weapons. Seongmin's daring maneuvers demonstrated that humans could outmaneuver superior alien vessels. He executed complex patterns through asteroid fields and around planetary orbits, showing that strategy and skill could overcome brute strength. His bravery inspired other pilots, and soon a squadron of skilled humans formed, ready to take the fight to the invaders. The first significant confrontation occurred near Jupiter. The alien fleet, expecting easy dominance, sailed into a trap meticulously planned by Sun Wu, Gina, and Seongmin. Using timing, terrain, and deception rather than raw force, humans struck from unexpected angles. Explosions lit the void as alien ships were destroyed one by one. The aliens had never faced such cunning. Their confusion and fear became apparent for the first time. Humans had discovered that their greatest weapon was not power but intelligence, adaptability, and cooperation. Across Earth, people celebrated cautiously. It was not a victory in the grand sense, but a proof of concept. Humans could resist, they could fight, and they could win against forces that had seemed invincible. Choi Sejin and Yoon Myra worked to replicate the tactics, studying alien patterns and planning future operations. Each success built confidence, knowledge, and unity, reinforcing the determination to continue the fight. Every victory, however small, carried great risk. Human forces learned from each engagement, analyzing what worked and what failed. Even civilians contributed by maintaining communication lines, repairing equipment, and providing supplies. No one was too small to make a difference. The war was no longer about survival alone. It became a testament to human ingenuity and perseverance. As humans learned to exploit alien weaknesses, they discovered patterns in their behavior. The aliens relied on formal routines, expected obedience, and ceremonial tactics. By breaking expectations, humans could create chaos in the enemy ranks. Ambushes were no longer isolated events. They became part of a growing strategy, a demonstration that humans could turn the alien strengths into vulnerabilities. Kang Sun-woo coordinated multiple ambushes across the solar system. Timing was critical. Fleets had to move precisely, strike quickly, and withdraw before the enemy could regroup. Beek Gina's algorithms disrupted alien command structures at key moments, creating windows of opportunity. Oh Seongmin's pilots exploited these gaps, striking at weak points with precision. The cooperation between brains, technology, and human skill produced results that no alien force had expected. Even as humans advanced, the psychological impact on the alien forces grew. They had assumed that Earth would crumble under fear, yet human resilience defied every expectation. Confusion replaced confidence. Fear replaced arrogance. Every destroyed ship, every foiled attack, and every successful human maneuver chipped away at their perceived superiority. The aliens were powerful, but humans were unpredictable, intelligent, and unified. Humanity's approach combined patience and cunning. Large-scale attacks were rare, carefully planned, and surgically executed. The focus was on maximizing impact while minimizing human losses. Small squads, guided by intelligence and strategy, struck where the enemy was weakest. The aliens, expecting straightforward conflict, found themselves trapped in a war they could not fully control. The humans' clever use of the environment, technology, and timing had leveled the playing field. The victories near, Jupiter sent waves of hope across Earth. People understood that humans were capable of more than mere survival. This hope fueled further innovation, more daring operations, and an unbreakable resolve. Ordinary individuals, inspired by the bravery of soldiers, engineers, and coders, continued their work with renewed purpose. They understood that every small contribution mattered, and that collective effort could achieve extraordinary results. Park Ji-ho monitored alien signals and communications, relaying critical data to Sunwoo, Gina, and Seongmin. His calculations allowed for precise coordination of attacks. Every moment of attention, every analysis, made the difference between success and disaster. Ji-ho's quiet determination became a symbol of humanity's capacity to adapt and survive. Even in the darkest moments, human ingenuity proved unstoppable. Kim Hanyul, coordinating global efforts on Earth, ensured that information and strategy were shared efficiently. Evacuation plans, logistics, and civilian protection were integrated with offensive operations. Her leadership allowed humans to operate as a cohesive force despite geographic and cultural differences. This unity became a hidden strength, one that the aliens had not anticipated and could not easily counter. With each victory, humans grew bolder. They no longer waited for the aliens to make mistakes. They forced errors by creating unexpected situations, using strategy and intelligence to manipulate the battlefield. The human race, once seemingly weak in the face of a superior foe, had learned to turn every threat into an opportunity. Their courage and skill became the foundation of a new kind of warfare, one where knowledge, preparation, and adaptability outweighed sheer strength. As part of this effort, Gina continued to refine her algorithms, ensuring that alien fleets could be slowed, misdirected, or disabled at critical moments. Oh Seongmin trained new pilots, teaching them to navigate complex terrains and execute daring maneuvers. Kang Sunwoo coordinated multi-layered strategies, combining space, ground, and orbital tactics. Humanity's combined efforts began to show that even against overwhelming odds, they could not only survive, but strike back effectively. The first major battle near Jupiter became a legend in the human network. Stories of courage, planning, and intelligence spread across Earth. People understood that their survival depended on more than weapons. It depended on unity, creativity, and daring. Ordinary humans working together had demonstrated that the aliens' assumptions about fear and submission were wrong. Humanity had learned to turn the strength of their enemies against them, using brains, cooperation, and courage to fight for survival. Humanity did not stop with small victories. After the battle near Jupiter, they expanded their efforts beyond Earth. The aliens had underestimated human ingenuity, and humans were determined to press their advantage. Captured alien technology was studied carefully. Engineers and scientists worked tirelessly to understand and modify these tools, turning them into weapons and systems that could support future operations. Knowledge became the key to survival and the foundation for humanity's counterattack. Nam Hyren, a strategist, emphasized that humanity could not show mercy too soon. Every opportunity to strike at the alien command and supply networks would reduce future threats. She argued that strategic action now would prevent prolonged conflict later. Her logic was clear. The aliens had started the war with mass killings, and humans had to ensure they would never have the chance to repeat it. Hiron's plans became central to Earth's military strategy. Ru Jizong, a diplomat, used the conflict to communicate with other species in the galaxy. Messages were sent exposing the aliens' crimes, broadcasting evidence of the mass killings and human resistance. These communications began to shift the perception of humanity across the stars. Other species, previously neutral or unaware, started quietly aiding humans or withdrawing support from the alien empire. Diplomacy, in tandem with military action, became a powerful tool for survival. Song Yun-chi, a medic, focused on keeping humanity alive and healthy during the growing war. Her work highlighted the human capacity for compassion, even in times of extreme danger. Hospitals and field clinics operated under dangerous conditions, treating injuries from both alien attacks and accidents during rapid deployment. Her presence reminded humans that the fight was not only for victory, but also for the preservation of human life and dignity. Even amid war, humanity did not abandon its moral core. Humanity's military strategy evolved quickly. Large-scale assaults were planned on alien supply lines, communication hubs, and population centers. The goal was to disrupt their operations without unnecessary civilian casualties, using intelligence and precision. Choi Sejin, Yoon Myra, and other scientists coordinated closely with tactical teams, ensuring that every operation leveraged human knowledge and resources efficiently. The alien empire, used to straightforward combat, found itself facing unpredictable attacks on multiple fronts. Captured alien ships and equipment were modified for human use. Small, agile fighters were equipped with alien energy weapons, while communication systems were reversed to intercept enemy signals. Oh Seong-min and other pilots trained rapidly to operate this hybrid technology. Every mission became a learning opportunity, improving tactics, equipment, and strategy. The humans' ability to adapt outpaced the aliens' rigid approach to warfare. On the ground, logistical networks ensured supplies, reinforcements, and intelligence moved efficiently. Han Tae-soo's careful coordination became essential. Every successful mission depended on timely delivery of equipment and personnel. Civilian populations supported these efforts by maintaining infrastructure, sharing information, and keeping communities safe. Humanity's strength was not just in soldiers, but in the entire planet, working together toward survival. Human ingenuity extended to the psychological battlefield. The aliens had relied heavily on fear to maintain control. Humanity countered by using misinformation, staged retreats, and controlled broadcasts that made the invaders uncertain. Confidence faltered among alien forces as they struggled to interpret human actions. Every human maneuver, small or large, became part of a strategy to undermine alien morale while conserving lives and resources. Now, Hiron's strategies were tested in several skirmishes. Each engagement improved human coordination and efficiency. Disabling supply hubs, disrupting communications, and targeting alien leadership networks weakened the enemy systematically. Unlike the aliens' ceremonial approach, humans focused on effective outcomes. Strategy, knowledge, and adaptability replaced ritual and brute force as the key to victory. Jisong's diplomatic messages amplified human successes. Allies from other systems provided information, technology, and safe zones. The alien empire faced isolation as species that had previously tolerated their dominance began to distance themselves. Humanity's efforts combined military might, intelligence, and moral positioning, creating a multifaceted approach that alien forces were unprepared to face. Song Yuncha's medical teams ensured that humans could sustain prolonged campaigns. Injuries and illnesses were treated efficiently, allowing soldiers and civilians to remain active in resistance efforts. Her leadership also inspired morale. Humans were not only fighting effectively, but maintaining humanity in the midst of war. Compassion became a strength, demonstrating that humanity's values could coexist with strategic necessity. As humans took the fight to alien territory, the enemy's internal structure began to collapse. Orders were delayed, coordination failed, and fear spread among their ranks. Humans had discovered that exploiting rigidity and relying on unpredictability created disproportionate effects. The aliens, who had believed themselves superior, now faced a species that was intelligent, united, and relentless. Each victory taught humans more about alien technology and tactics. Choi Sijin's orbital stations became hubs for research, while Yoon Mira's language analysis allowed for accurate predictions of alien responses. Kang Sung-woo's tactical planning incorporated this intelligence, designing operations that maximized human advantage. Oh Seong-min's pilots executed these plans with skill and daring, turning theoretical strategies into real successes. The aliens' arrogance worked against them. They underestimated the humans' ability to adapt, learn, and coordinate globally. Humans took advantage of every error, every predictable action, and every weakness in the alien approach. The result was a steady accumulation of victories that eroded the alien empire's control. Their forces, once imposing, became increasingly fragmented and reactive. Humanity's war had evolved beyond mere defense. They were no longer reacting to alien attacks, but taking proactive steps to dismantle the enemy's power. Every engagement was precise, calculated, and effective. Humans had learned to combine intelligence, technology, and courage in ways the aliens had never anticipated. The galaxy, watching silently, began to recognize Earth as a formidable power. The combination of strategic planning, rapid adaptation, and moral grounding became humanity's hallmark. They attacked with precision, protected civilians, and maintained communication and coordination across vast distances. The aliens had assumed dominance would be simple, but humans had turned the conflict into a multidimensional struggle where ingenuity, collaboration, and determination outweighed brute force. As the war continued, humans learned not only to survive, but to dominate strategically. Alien fleets fell into traps, supply networks were severed, and key command centers were neutralized. Each success increased confidence and knowledge, creating a cycle of improvement and victory. Humanity's ability to adapt, coordinate, and act decisively proved that even against superior technology, determination and intelligence could prevail. By the time human forces prepared to strike the alien home system, the enemy empire was already weakened, disoriented, and isolated. Humans had turned what began as a defensive struggle into a galaxy-spanning campaign of resistance, strategy, and calculated strikes. The aliens, expecting submission, faced a species that had learned to fight, endure, and win on its own terms. The war the galaxy had never seen coming was now in full effect, and Earth had become a force that no one would underestimate. Humanity reached the alien home system with a level of preparation and precision that was unmatched in the galaxy. The alien species, which had begun the war with arrogance and brutality, was now on the defensive. Years of human learning, adaptation, and cooperation had turned the tables. Humans did not approach this moment with vengeance in mind, but with strategic clarity. They would end the war efficiently and prevent future threats without succumbing to unnecessary cruelty. Park Ji-ho monitored every signal from the alien system, guiding the fleet with careful attention. Every movement, every transmission was analyzed to ensure maximum effect and minimum risk to human lives. The humans' approach had always combined patience with intelligence. They knew that attacking with brute force alone would be wasteful. Instead, they focused on disabling leadership, communications, and supply networks, ensuring the alien species could not regroup. Kang Sun-woo coordinated the final fleet maneuvers. Human ships moved like a single organism, guided by tactical insight and strategic foresight. Ambushes were set, traps were laid, and the alien response was anticipated at every turn. Sun Wu's calculations ensured that every move had a purpose, and every human unit worked in harmony. Humans had learned to act as one entity, using brains and coordination to compensate for the alien's superior raw power. Beat Gina refined her algorithms to disrupt any remaining alien communication. Her code caused delays and errors in alien command, ensuring that their forces were disorganized and ineffective. Every ship, every defense system, was manipulated to prevent effective resistance. Gina's work turned human ingenuity into a decisive weapon, allowing operations to succeed with minimal loss and maximum efficiency. Xiang Min and the pilots executed the final maneuvers with skill and courage. Each strike was precise, calculated to target key infrastructure and command centers. The pilots had trained for this moment, and their experience and adaptability ensured success. Human forces had learned to fight with both strategy and heart, proving that intelligence, courage, and coordination could overcome even overwhelming power. Namhyron oversaw the final strategy, making decisions based on intelligence and the need to end the conflict quickly. Every plan was measured to ensure that the alien species would be rendered incapable of future aggression. Humans had no desire for unnecessary revenge. They sought only to protect Earth and the galaxy from further harm. Hyron's decisions reflected both wisdom and moral responsibility. Ru Jizong continued diplomatic efforts, broadcasting the final actions and intentions of humanity to the galaxy. Evidence of the aliens' past atrocities was shared, while humans made clear that their actions were strategic, not cruel. The message was simple: Earth would defend itself, but it would not terrorize or kill for pleasure. The galaxy began to recognize humans not only as powerful, but as principled Datsong Yunshi, and the medical teams ensured that all human personnel remained healthy and capable. Field clinics operated efficiently, injuries were treated promptly, and morale was maintained. Her work highlighted that even in war, humans retained compassion and care for one another. Humanity's capacity for empathy became a strength, reinforcing the unity and resilience that had defined the struggle. The alien leadership was quickly neutralized, and key military installations were dismantled. The species' command structure collapsed under coordinated strikes. Confusion and fear spread among the remaining alien population. They realized that they had misjudged the human race, that intelligence, unity, and determination could overcome brute strength and terror. Humans had learned from every encounter, adapting strategies, technologies, and tactics to achieve victory with minimal unnecessary destruction. Earth's forces proceeded with caution, avoiding unnecessary harm to alien civilians where possible. Humans had learned the value of morality alongside strategy. The goal was to ensure that the alien species could no longer pose a threat, not to satisfy anger or revenge. Every action was calculated, ethical, and effective. This restraint demonstrated that humanity could achieve power without losing its moral core. Park Jiho reflected on the cost of victory. 7 million lives had been lost in the initial broadcast, and millions more had been affected by the war. Every decision made now honored those losses by ensuring that the conflict ended decisively and justly. Survival was not only about winning battles, but preserving values and humanity itself. The final operations were a demonstration of everything humanity had learned. Tactics, technology, coordination, and strategy combined seamlessly. Alien defenses failed, and the species could no longer mount organized resistance. Humans had used intelligence, patience, and cooperation to achieve what once seemed impossible. The galaxy watched as Earth ended the conflict efficiently, with both skill and moral clarity. As the last alien strongholds fell, humanity chose not to broadcast revenge or terror. Instead, a final message was sent into the galaxy. It declared that humans had survived, that they had defended their planet and their species, and that they acted with purpose, not cruelty. The lesson was clear. Strength lay not only in power, but in intelligence, cooperation, and ethical action. The aliens' terror had failed, and humans had emerged as a respected and formidable force. Park Geo returned to his console, reflecting on the journey. From the shock of the initial broadcast to the strategic conquest of the alien home system, humanity had grown stronger, wiser, and more united. The 7 million lives lost were honored not through vengeance, but through survival, memory, and careful, ethical action. Humans had proved that even in the face of overwhelming terror, intelligence, morality, and unity could prevail. Kim Haniel coordinated final planetary recovery operations, ensuring that Earth could rebuild and prepare for future threats. She worked alongside leaders from around the world, maintaining the networks of cooperation that had been forged during the war. Humanity had learned that unity and preparation were as vital as courage and intelligence. In the quiet aftermath, humans looked to the stars with cautious optimism. They had survived a threat that few believed they could endure. The alien species had been wiped out, but humanity had preserved its values, learned the importance of coordination, and demonstrated that resilience and intelligence could overcome seemingly insurmountable odds. Earth had become not just a survivor, but a respected power in the galaxy. The story of humanity's triumph became a lesson for generations. Strength is measured not by cruelty or domination, but by the ability to endure, adapt, and act with purpose. The galaxy had witnessed a species that, against overwhelming odds, had turned tragedy into victory through intelligence, unity, and ethical resolve. Humanity had survived, and in doing so, had left a lesson that would resonate across the stars for ages to come.